Hey all, so in this video I'm finally getting back to all the body work on the van. For those of you who haven't seen the other videos, all this you can see and the stuff you're going to see on the other side was all rust repair. When I bought this van there was all rot there. So this section's been replaced, this section has been replaced, in here has been slightly rebuilt, that all along, and then the lower rocker over there. And the wheel well wasn't replaced, but I went that far up just because of what I had replaced. And then on the other side, very similar. This back piece, the section up here and all through here was replaced. This corner was extensively rebuilt. This entire pillar from about here down is all new metal, all the way around. The piece behind here is all new. A lot of stuff got rebuilt down in this area, and then this rocker is new to about there, and then the front is new under this door. So all that was done, all that was roughed in, but it got no further than grinding down welds and slapping some epoxy primer on it. So what I want to do is go through, pull off this primer in most of these areas because it's failed in a lot of places, like right there. Go in where I need to here and there with a grinder to get any high spots in the welds that I didn't quite hit, as well as remove a little bit more of the paint in places. And then we're going to use fiberglass filler to smooth this stuff out. I'm using fiberglass resin filler because it's waterproof, so if my paint fails, regular body filler would absorb water, this won't. So it'll help protect this stuff a little bit better. But we're going to try and get all of this done in filler so that it looks nice. And then the entire lower part of the van, basically from this ridge down, is going to get painted on both sides. I have blue that was pulled from this code, but wasn't matched to the van, so it's actually a little bit too dark. I'm going to polish all this extra primer that's above this body line off on both sides so that I can tape the middle of the body line as my break point. And then there's a couple spot things, like this was some rust that I quickly ground down and hit with some paint. I'm going to do a little bit better job, as well as put a little filler to smooth it. And then that area is going to get spot painted, because eventually this entire van is getting repainted in a completely different color. But for now I want it to look decent and have a good coat of paint on it for the winter, so that this stuff, which is the primer's already failing, doesn't end up just being new rot come the winter. So let's get to work. Alright, everything is ground down and ready for the fiberglass resin. Yes, I started polishing it with scratch remover. My primary goal is to get that bit of paint that was above there off, but then I kind of just kept going. I don't really know why. COVID brain is still happening sometimes, so that's a separate thing I need to deal with, is getting all that off. But I'm not going to worry about that for right now. I did clean off in the areas of where I'm going to be resining, so it's going to get a little skim coat of resin back there. This is going to need a little bit thicker right here to transition that. Thin skim coat here, a little bit thicker where these two panels join, because that's a little rougher. Especially right here, there's definitely a step. That's going to get the thinnest coat because it's pretty much good, but I just want to fill any low spots. And then up front over here, that was just high paint, but there's a little bit here that needs a better transition. And then that's it. That's all just going to get, like I said, skim coat of resin. As soon as, while that's drying, I'm going to start dealing with grinding on the other side so I can get some resin on that. So I come back and sand them both. I would really love to get primer on all of this tonight, but I don't think that's going to happen. And there's a fiberglass resin on. This stuff's got fiberglass fibers in it. I'm mostly using it for its waterproof properties, but the fiberglass resin stuff is going to be nice for like where the wheel well edges meet and stuff. So if it ends up a little bit thicker there to get the shape right, I'm not risking exceeding the strength of regular Bondo in a way that would crack. The stuff's, because of that fiberglass in it and because it's a resin like that, way less likely to crack, which will make for stronger work. So this all needs to dry 15-20 minutes. So I'm gonna grind away at the other side and then come back to this and start sanding it. This is gonna absolutely need a respirator mask to be sanded because this stuff is nasty. You do not want to breathe this because not only is it Bondo dust, but it's also tiny bits of fiberglass. All right, so this side, that's all ground down. This is all ground down. This is the area that I'm gonna have to be doing some work in because this was all built from scratch. This here, basically the patch panel went out to like here somewhere and this shape was different on it. So I had to like fabricate this inner lip, pull this down to it, weld it in, kind of make some bits and pieces over here. So that's the area that's going to need a lot of work, I think, to get the way I like it. But that's not the big thing. The big thing is that I found more rot. So this has been replaced to here, and it's been replaced to here. This was original. It was all fine when I did the work, but it started bubbling over here. When I poked at it with a screwdriver, it went through. So basically I need to take a chunk out right here and weld in a new piece. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I hammered at the rest of it with a screwdriver and I have a couple dents I have to fill, but really whacked the hell out of this with a screwdriver to see if I could find any other soft spots. And nothing else seems soft. There's no other signs of any other bubbling. Just this area for some reason was rusty. So that's going to get cut out and a new piece welded in. Got that patch welded in and all tidied up. So that's now taken care of. This can now get fillered along with the rest of it. I'm looking, this is all going to need a good grind before I can filler this because there's a lot of chips in it, but took care of that rust problem. I think I might be done for the evening though, because trying to sand filler in the dark seems like a bad idea. All right, day 2. So this is all dried, at least as far as I can tell. It went on a lot gnarlier than I expected. It's a lot more just weird shapes and stuff like that. So I suspect I'm going to be coming back and doing another pass with regular filler on top of this. Also, this is actually the 3rd day because yesterday it poured rain. That's why there's primer on here. I was trying to protect the bare metal anywhere where it was exposed, but I missed some spots. Like there's some there, there's a little bit there, there's a little on the other side. So those areas I'm going to have to go in and take care of that surface rust. But yeah, this is all got done. This side got done as well. I forgot by the time I got to it, because I was doing this metal repair here, that I was going to skim this whole thing. But I think I'm going to end up doing that to Bondo anyway to fill those little dings and dents. But either way, I need to sand this all back and try and get the shape more or less what I want, so that I can either decide if that's enough or come back in with filler. All right, mistakes were made. Yes, you're hearing me through my filter mask because this dust is everywhere. So this stuff, I was expecting it to be a little bit harder to sand than regular filler,
but that's not the case at all. This stuff is incredibly difficult to sand. It clogs this up. This is an 80 grit, and that was the only thing that was starting to touch it. But even then, it's really difficult to get it to sand it, which means it's almost impossible to get anything consistent across it. It looks like, at least for this area, this is not the stuff I should be using, because it's just too hard to sand for the subtle amount of reshaping I'm trying to do. The like gaps over here where these were welded together maybe would be okay. But even that, I don't know how I'm going to do the shaping. So what I'm trying to decide right now is whether I'm going to keep working at this to get something that I can then put a layer of filler over, or if this is a waste of time and I should just come in here with a stripping disc and pull all this off again.
And that's all stripped back. Yeah, basically almost none of what I put on I ended up keeping a little bit in that seam over there, and there's a couple spots on that back section where it's in some divots, but other than that, everywhere else I basically removed it all because it just wasn't working well. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing to the other side. But I think what I'm going to do is blow down this side and skim it with regular filler. And maybe tonight I can sand that, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, I basically wasted a day trying to use that stuff. That fiber fill has its place, but this wasn't it. I was trying something new and it didn't work out the way I wanted, so I'm back to using normal filler. All right, and then the rains came. There's a chance of rain tonight, so this isn't completely surprising. I was hoping it wasn't going to happen, but I got the garage cleared out so I could get the van in, which is why I was willing to work. Sorry, I'm picking everything up while I'm talking to you. But I got that one side stripped down, and I got it, some of it in filler, the proper body filler. I didn't mix up a second batch and finish that side because I wanted to get the other side stripped. Unfortunately, I got maybe 25% of the way through it before it started drizzling, and the van had to go in right away because wet filler on that side, raw metal on both sides, couldn't risk it. So I'm just picking everything up right now and putting it in the back of the van because I'm going to be using it again tomorrow. And the van ain't going anywhere until this is much further along. So yeah, I guess that's it for tonight. I will pick this back up tomorrow if the weather's nice, and later if it's not. I can't really work on this in the garage, in case none of you have, in case you haven't seen it. The van doesn't really fit. Lengthwise, I've actually got more room than you would think because the van's surprisingly short. But width-wise, there's no room to do anything without being really, really cramped. And the last thing I want to be doing is have my face just about pressed up against the side of the van while I'm running the power tool and spraying dust everywhere. So yeah, this is it for right now. But I was about to say I made progress, but I'm behind from when I started. But I'm making progress in the right direction, I guess. We'll go with that. At least I'm figuring shit out. This is all a learning process. I do these things to learn how to do these things. Basically, if I want to teach myself how to do something, I just tend to just jump off the deep end. Back to work on the van. Okay, so here's where I left off. Most of this has gotten filler on it. I still have to do the front and the back. I only did one batch of filler. That's why those things didn't get done. Coming over to this side, started grinding off the fiberglass filler, but only got that far when it started drizzling. So I had to stuff it in the garage, so I still have to finish grinding the dog leg, the whole bottom piece here, and up, so that I can then put regular filler on there. Sorry about the doors constantly being opened in your way, but actually, you know, I got to get in here. But all of this is now cleaned off. All of this is now got filler on it. So this side needs to dry. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I need to grind this and put some filler on it too. And then this side, filler should be. Yeah, it's still a little soft. But I can start working on this middle bit because that's from the other day, so that's definitely going to be dry. By the time I finish that, hopefully the other filler is ready to go.
Alright, so I continue to be bad at bodywork. Yes, I'm wearing a mask. Over here, I packed so much Bondo in this stretch that here where it actually needed it, I sanded too much off trying to get it out of here. So I need to go back in and put a thinner skim coat just down here. Up here, the sanding was difficult, so I took a little too much away, so I need to fill that back in. There is a weld hole right here, I never put any in. This in here, I managed to put a ridge right next to where it needs to be sanded. This is a thing I seem to do a lot. So that needs a little bit more so that I can sand that in a smooth way. Same thing here. This is the weld line that I need to smooth in, and I managed to put 2 deep ridges right there. Same here, and then there's one thing here and one thing here that were deep ridges that keep me from being able to smooth this transition. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but I'm really unhappy with it, so I'm going to go back in and be a little more judicious and put a lot less, but in some very specific places. So I can take care of that, but I'm going to sand that over there first, so I don't know if I need to put any more there. But yeah, I don't mind taking 90% of the filler off, but I hate taking 90% of the filler off and it not working because I did something like put these deep grooves in right next to where I need to smooth the transition. Yeah, this piece is slightly proud of this piece, so that needs to be transitioned this way. And then in this case, the angle of the original panel and the replacement panel the curve isn't quite the same. So this is why there's a bunch down here, is because I'm trying to like ease that transition to make it less abrupt. It's still going to be not great because like this is proud and this is proud, and but if I try to get that perfectly filled, it's going to end up with this whole thing being filler. But you know, I want it to be not blatantly obvious to the naked eye. But yeah, I'm going to keep at it.
Back at it again. So I don't do body work usually. I've always say I hate body work, and then I haven't done it for a while, kind of forgot, like, whatever, it's body work, who cares. Now I remember why I hate body work. It's Sisyphean like nature. So after the last video, I went in and I sanded all up through here, and I sanded the bit on the door. It's mostly been hit when I was doing other body work around it. This is all basically taken care of, except like here, here, and here, all in the wheel well, need a little bit more filler to just two of them. It's got like, that one's got pits. This one's, the shape is just a little bit wrong. I took a little too much away right there. And then over here, this piece is in relative to this one. So I need to add more over here so that I can smooth that transition. But the rest of that wheel well is done. I just started working in this corner when I decided I was finished for the night. So this all in here needs to get finished shaping, and then I get to do the rocker across. So yeah, I'm gonna get into it. This right here is Goo Gone. Yeah, I don't know why I put my finger in it. I'm trying to get rid of the last little bits of the adhesive from the pinstripes that were here, because those areas are gonna get painted. So I've got that on a couple of panels, so that should take care of that. So yeah, it's basically sand and then prime and then ready to paint whenever I'm ready to do that step. So this side's initial sanding is all done. There's a couple spots I needed to touch up. Unfortunately, I mismixed the filler and it started going off before I got it all on. So I'm probably gonna have to redo this spot and that spot. I tried to get it on it thick enough that when it dries, hopefully I can sand it back off and it'll be okay, but I suspect there's gonna be air bubbles and stuff in there. But this is just my error. And then a few little spots here and there back here to just get stuff right. And then the bodywork on the bottom of the van is done. And the next step is going to be to mask it off and shoot primer on it. Over here, I found some rust here and I found some rust down here. And ground it off, sprayed it with the rust converter. And I've decided I'm not gonna filler this. I'm just gonna clean it, sand it, and prime and shoot it, because a little bit of roughness under there and, you know, paint being not quite perfect here, it's fine. It's not worth the effort to put filler on it to try and get it absolutely perfect. So that just needs cleaning, and then it's ready to be part of the primer job. I have decided, originally I was trying to decide whether to bring the color down there or straight across, and I've decided to go straight across because I think it'll be easier and cleaner than trying to mask this as a nice curve, because I'm just not super great at that. The other thing I'm thinking about doing, because I had to come up into the body line a couple times where I was doing body work, I'm thinking about, I'm gonna primer where I need to up to basically the peak or just over, depending on where exactly I am over there. Sand that edge smooth, and then I think I'm gonna do a blendable mask. There's a trick somebody showed me where instead of putting a piece of tape down, you fold your paper over, but not like rigidly. You just make it like a loop with it, and you tape that somewhere up here where the bottom of it's where you want, you know, stuff to more or less end, so that when you're shooting, a little bit of the color can get up in there underneath it, and it gives you a fade rather than a sharp line with a ridge like you would get with tape. And I think I'm going to do that all around, because what I can do is, as long as I've got enough paint, you know, at the top of this ridge, which is now where I'm going to have to bring my color to, I can let that blend up. If that looks good, I can be done. If that doesn't look good, I can use, you know, I can wet sand or use a polisher to bring all that paint off to that edge where I was going to be anyway, and get the same effect. But I might be able to save myself some effort in trying to mask and then pinstripe, because I was going to have to pinstripe the edge to make it look right. That's the best way to deal with two colors meeting. You know, and I may just be able to get away with it, and if I don't, I'm not really putting much more work into it than I was before, and I might get a nicer edge. So the doors have had all their goo gone, put on. They've had all the stuff taken off of them. Everything's going to need degreasing to some degree or another. Everything's going to need cleaning so that it's ready for primer. I'm also going to jack the back of the van up and take the rear wheels off, and then just mask the brake drum and stuff. It's going to be easier than trying to mask that wheel, and it's going to give me more access to paint the wheel lip properly. Same thing, I think. Well, no, I think up here, because I'm not trying to paint the whole wheel lip, I might be able to get away with these tires staying on because they are smaller. They don't stick out. They're not in the way as much as those. But yeah, this is coming along. It's almost ready for paint. All right, I'm in a bit of a panic right now because the light is, well, basically gone, but the tiny bit of it that's left is disappearing fast. So I need to get some paint on this thing. So I'm going to blast through that. You may get a good shot of it, you may not. At this point, I don't care. I need to get paint on this side. Nope, that's going on terribly. I have to put the camera down to futz with this some more. I'm going to up the air pressure a little bit. I don't know why, but the gun is being very difficult. That's much better. Oh, fuck, I never took the bully step off. Well, fuck it. I'll strip it later. Yes, I know my technique kind of sucks. Part of it is this whole arrangement means I can't get low enough. One of the advantages of the primer coat is I can make mistakes that would be a big problem in the color coat. So this problem I'm having with getting the gun low enough, what I'll do is put a 90 degree at the bottom of the gun so that everything sticks out behind me rather than below me. This is definitely going on with a ton of orange peel. I'm not sure what's up with the pressure on the gun, because I'm actually spraying now above the pressure recommendation for this paint, because it wouldn't spray worth a shit at its recommended pressure. So, oh well. Okay, I'm also gonna end up sanding a bunch of this. I was expecting to, now I know I will. Let me rephrase that. I was expecting to and hoping not to need to. If I sound panicky, it's because I am, because it's supposed to thunderstorm here tomorrow. So this absolutely needed to get done tonight. Otherwise, I'd be well into next week before I had a chance. I know any of you who are professional painters out there are probably screaming at your screen, but I'm not. I'm extremely far from that. All right, I think that's going to be it for painting. All right, well, that's it. Yeah, the day got away from me. Work took longer than I expected on it, so I ended up painting it in the dark, kind of rush, kind of panic. So it all didn't go together as well as I'd hoped. You saw me bagging the rear wheels because I just didn't have time to take them off, but it ended up not being a problem. I could still get the paint in the wheel well. The biggest problem I had was the gun was acting up. It was spraying really poorly, and I just didn't have the time to mess with it. I just had to, that's good enough. It's an acceptable finish I can sand out, go kind of compromise. So I'm gonna go in and have dinner, and then I'm gonna strip it down as much as I need to drive it in the garage because it's gonna rain tomorrow. And then the next clear day, I'll pull it out and take a look at how it came out, see if it's acceptable or I need to redo or I need to whatever. And you're gonna find out the same time I do. That's gonna be in the next video, just because this one's already way too long. So that's it. I will talk to you all later, and have a good night.